Hi, welcome. This is Young but Somewhat Overqualified Podcast, and I'm your host, Josie. This is the first episode of the podcast, so I will be explaining what this podcast will be about and why I decided on making a podcast. And of course, I will be introducing who I am later on in the episode. And also, excuse if I sound very awkward or nervous because, this is the first time I will be vocal through social media and trying to make a bigger impact. So the name Young but Somewhat Overqualified, or YBSO, is inspired by my friend Anthony. So, like any other person, I was complaining about little stupid mistakes or dumb decisions I was making to him, and he always joked around how I was too smart or too overqualified for the choices I was making. And one day I was asking him, like, what should I name the podcast that I'm trying to start? And he was just like, you're always so overqualified for the mistakes you make, so why not overqualified? And I thought about it, but that sounded too like blunt and forward, and there's like really no other context for it. So I decided, what should I name it? Because I do like the idea of overqualified, because I don't think a lot of people would use that term. So I was like, well, I'm young and I'm kind of overqualified for some things, right? So poof, the name Young but Somewhat Overqualified came into my head, and it just stuck to me due to the acronym being like, it could roll off your tongue. YBSO. Like, YBSO, man. YBSO. Listen to the podcast. YBSO. So there's that. The name kind of sounds pretentious, like if you're not reading it like in the right tone, like young but somewhat overqualified. Like, what does that even mean? It just means like it's very, like, you're supposed to say it like you're very unaware of it. Like, oh, I'm young, but like somewhat overqualified. And it's just perfect because it really defines who I am as a person. And I believe like a handful of my friends, this term can be used. So I'm going to say it again. I'm young, but I'm still making these mistakes. And I'm a little too old for these mistakes and overqualified for the careless choices I've been making. And the name of the podcast also alludes to the fact that millennials are the most educated generation, but are the most underpaid. And I myself am a millennial. I'm at the very end of the millennial generation. And this fact, like, blew my mind, right? I connect with this fact. Like, I really do love my day job. But I feel like I'm a little overqualified for it because I've been doing tutoring since I was like in high school, and I'm still tutoring people in math when I'm like 22. So yeah, I am educated. Matter of fact, I'm like any other millennial. I will flex my degree now. So I have a BS in biology, and I've gotten my degree at a University of California, not going to be specific, and I am currently trying to pursue higher education. So I could safely say I'm not entirely stupid, right? What a joke, right? So the reason for YBSO is a bit personal. I would consider it my passion project. I'm not trying to make money off of this. If I do, wow, great. But I truly believe in the goal that I want to pursue with it. So a little bit about myself. I've always enjoyed helping people. Like, I will go to the end of earth to just help someone. And I love sharing my random crazy stories with people. So I truly believe that I can be a relatable voice in the community and talk about things no one else openly talks about, right? There will be a lot of talks regarding things that typical people experience and typical people talk about. But I'll also be talking about the experiences that I've had that only a really small niche of people have experienced. I am young, but a lot has happened in my life, and I hope that I'm ready to be vocal about it. So you may be asking, why me? Why Josie? Why didn't I pitch this idea to someone with a bigger influence? Well, because a lot of people that I listen to either via podcast or YouTube are much older than I am and have already lived through their 20s. And I'm still in my 20s. I'm making all these mistakes. I'm currently making a bunch of mistakes all the time. And I've already made mistakes that I'm currently learning from. And I feel like if I'm vocal about these mistakes that I make as a 22-year-old, that someone maybe a little younger or a little older, maybe anyone could learn from my mistakes so they don't make the same mistakes I did. Also, I feel like my life attracts a lot of weird things, and I just thought it'd be entertaining to share those crazy experiences with the world and make some people laugh because some of my decisions were really stupid. So there were many times where I had these very deep and intimate conversations with my friends, and I just wish the world could hear those interactions. Sometimes there were phrases or just things that just clicked really well while talking to a friend. And sometimes I think, man, this could freaking help someone else that isn't me and my friend. And now I have the opportunity to sit down and talk about just anything and everything with my friends and make it into a podcast. And hopefully through this podcast, I could open doors to conversations and topics that everyone is aware of, but isn't talking about out loud. A few topics that I have in mind are dating, mental health, and insecurities. And I know it's like, wow, those are very generic topics, but from my perspective, I think this would be very relatable, especially to college students, people who are freshly dating, people with mental illnesses. I hope that this will really help someone. But, everyone talks about these to some degree, to a surface. But what extent of it is truly raw and 100% relatable? And I want to be that person who is truly raw and 100% relatable to you guys, right? Well, that's enough about the podcast itself. Now it's time to introduce me. Hi, I'm Josie, and I've had an idea for a podcast for over a year now. It's taken some time for me to execute how I would want to run a podcast and mentally prepare myself for exposing myself to the world. And I just think it's crazy. So, yeah. Well, here's a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in LA, and weirdly enough, I went to college in Southern California. Woot woot, class of 2018. And I've been only working part-time since I've graduated, and that kind of connects to the whole millennial fact that I said in the beginning of the podcast. It's really hard for me to find a full-time job that is in my major. So, yeah, sad life. And yeah, so here are some things that I would write on a dating app about myself. So, fact 1. My Myers-Briggs personality type is ENTP. Second fact, I am a Scorpio, but I am on the cusp of a Libra. And third thing I would say on any other dating app is I am a potato. What's up? I'm lazy. I love just hanging out at home, but I'm extroverted for some reason. I don't know how that works, but YOLO. And then here are some facts that the listeners should know and understand, or will have a better understanding of why I say the things I say and why I feel the ways I feel. So here are the facts. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I went through treatment for it for a bit, and stuff has happened, and that will be talked about in later episodes. Recently, I've been diagnosed with a chronic skin condition, and I always knew that I had a weird thing about my skin, and I never knew it was a chronic skin condition for some reason, yet I knew it was weird. So yeah. So with me being an ENTP personality and having been diagnosed with these mental illnesses, I feel kind of lost in the world, and I'm hoping to gain some clarity and give some clarity to a few people as the podcast goes along. Thank you for listening to the very first episode of Young but Somewhat Overqualified. Hopefully the next episodes are probably going to be a lot more interesting than this one, since this is an introductory episode and I wanted to give you guys a little more info about what the podcast is about and a little bit of information about myself. So thank you, and please keep listening. Bye.